be making a video about all of my greatest life mistakes. Maybe it can serve as a lesson for some of you watching to, you know, maybe just don't do the shit that I did, because you very well may ruin your life too. I think that, you know, in order to like really permanently ruin your life, you'd have to do something like, you know, have a baby with like a really shitty human being. Like that might ruin your life. What else can ruin your life? I don't know. I guess the potential for anything to ruin your life really lies in perspective. If you're like a happy, positive person who after processing pain and emotion can bounce back and learn from something, then I guess nothing can really ruin your life. I mean, what could ruin your life? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below, what is a life-ruining scenario? Like, what can truly ruin your life? I know me when I was younger, something that I would always say is like, my life is ruined, my life is over. I've completely gone off on a tangent now, but all I'm trying to say is basically, you know, perhaps I'm being a little bit dramatic here. The things that I'm gonna tell you about in this video that ruined my life, you know, did they really ruin my life? No, but at the time I thought they did. These events forever changed me and kind of made me into who I am today, and in the end I don't regret that, because I think that I'm exactly where I am supposed to be in my life right now. But anyway, let's get on with the first thing that ruined my life. The first thing that ruined my life is the fact that I did not apply myself in school ever, and I completely wasted my money and my time in college. I never took my academics very seriously. I always felt like I was, you know, already smart, like I didn't need these books, I didn't need to know math, I didn't need to pass algebra. I kind of never studied, I never did homework. I was still in like AP and honors classes in high school, but I never ever tried. I would be late to class, and even when I went to college, I thought it might be different, because at that point I was paying for school in my education, and I thought that that would be a big motivator. But no, I guess I just would have rather hung out with my boyfriends, and that was kind of the pattern. Everything dealing with boyfriends took precedent over anything else in my life. I put them first, and it was one of the most life-ruining things. Did it completely destroy my life? No, but it came close several times, because I sacrificed who I was, my money, my time, my talents, my intelligence on good-for-nothing loser ex-boyfriends who did nothing but manipulate me, use me, bring me down, bash my appearance. I wasted so much potential on what I believed to be love. And I think that I also had a degree of daddy issues, where I just so desperately sought out a male figure in my life. I clung on to really crappy boyfriends way past their expiration date. Like, these relationships should not have gone on for as long as they did. I was in a 4-year relationship, I was in a 2-year relationship, like I was in so many long-term relationships with people who simply mistreated me, were not good to me, were unfaithful, and time again I took them back and I compromised who I was, my values, my talents, everything. Like, it was so bad. Which leads me to the next thing that I did in my life that really screwed me up, and that is when I moved to Los Angeles, and I went out there with these grandiose ambitions of becoming an actress. I thought it was what I wanted to do in my life. And so when I got to Los Angeles, I found myself financially supporting myself on my own, as well as the guy that I was dating, and we were living in this 1-bedroom apartment. I was trying to do auditions, I was working as a waitress, and he was unemployed at the time. And I made the very big mistake of going to a car dealership with him and co-signing for a car for him when he had no job. And, you know, years later that car would get repossessed, and it is still a massive factor in why my credit's really low, and it affects everything I do in my life today, like financing my car, getting an apartment. I always have to pay an exorbitant amount of security in order to get anything. Financing rates are through the roof for me, and it's something that will carry on and affect my life for years to come. And it was such a dumb decision. I just co-signed for his car because I wanted him to get a job so he'd be able to help out in order to make money to buy groceries and to, you know, keep the 1-bedroom apartment that we had. And even when he did get a job, he wasn't making enough money. And then this leads me to the next thing I did in my life that was also pretty life ruining. Not so much life ruining as like emotionally ruining, and that is when I became an exotic dancer. I don't sit around and wait for things to happen. I grab everything by the balls and just go for it. That's why I moved to LA. Like literally I decided 3 or 4 months before that I was gonna just like pack up my car and sell all my things and move to Los Angeles with like no job or anything, just like a few $1,000s in the bank. So I started stripping, and I remember the first couple months that I was doing it, I was having a good time. And the one really bad thing about it was that I was still with that boyfriend at the time, and I lied to him about what I was doing. I told him that I was simply bartending, and I would pack a bag of like stripper clothes and keep it in my car, and I would wear like a fake work outfit, and he would think that I was going to go bartending. I would go to the club every night, change, do my job, come home. I was making a lot of money. There were nights where I made thousands of dollars, and of course I could never show my boyfriend that because he would then suspect that I was doing something else. There's no way a bartender is gonna be making thousands of dollars. So I kept my finances very much so under wraps, but eventually he did begin to notice that like, wow, you know, Stephanie's not complaining about money as much anymore. She's going shopping much more often. And so like he became very suspicious, and you know, over the course of me working there for a few months, I realized that there were severe problems in that relationship. We had been together for 4 years. It was extremely toxic and abusive, and so I ended up ending the relationship. And after I ended it, I kind of confessed to him and said, hey, like this is what I've been doing this whole time. He obviously freaked out, and I continued to dance for some of that year that I lived in Los Angeles. And I would do it on and off because, you know, there were periods of time where I'd have enough money to just like kind of float by and be able to audition and do my acting stuff. At that time, like I really put more time, invested more effort into my YouTube. So I began to dance less and less, and I realized that, you know, the dancing had really psychologically affected me. I was dealing a lot with depression, and I think that there was like one event that took place at my job on one evening. It was my ultimate breaking point. I mean, at that point, I was really at the lowest point emotionally that I've ever been at in my life. It was one of the few times in my life where I actually considered ending my life because I was so deeply, deeply hurt and distressed and lonely and depressed and just wounded. I'm not saying every exotic dancer goes through that, but I know that many do. And it is a very toxic work environment, and you are exposed to like a very dark side of humanity. Other women can handle it and they can have a positive experience, but I did not. I was weak and I was at a vulnerable state. But anyway, moving on from that, the next thing that ruined my life. After I was diagnosed with aplastic anemia, about 4 or 5 months later, I went into partial remission, and I so desperately wanted to have my old life back. I so badly wanted to be back in New York City and be a young, crazy, wild 20-something-year-old. So as I said, I reached partial remission. My blood counts were not great, but they were safe. I was in a stable position. And what I did was I decided that although I had an apartment in Connecticut that I was living at, and it was kind of like my safe space, a place for me to recover and get my health back into order, I decided that I was also going to sublet a studio apartment in Manhattan and stay there on the weekends and try to kind of ease my way back into that old lifestyle that I ultimately lost after I got sick. And so I ended up back in Manhattan about 5-6 months after. I really rushed into it. I should have never been back in the city. I dove right back into the deep end of the pool as far as going out, hanging around people. For 3 months, I did my thing in New York. I was going out for dinners, I was having drinks. Then every single 2-3 weeks, I would go back to my hospital and I would get my blood work done, and every single week my blood counts would just get a little bit lower. And I took note of it, I think after the second or third trip to the hospital. One of the nurses said that the results the past few times are pretty concerning to her, and that they might be indicative of a possible relapse, and that this is something the doctors really need to look over. And yet I ignored it. I literally just put on my beer goggles and just decided, fuck it, like I'm just gonna continue doing what I'm doing. And then eventually, about 4 months after I was deemed in a partial remission, my doctors gave me the news that I was relapsing and that I had no bone marrow donor, and that the only choice I had was to be put on a higher dose of my immunosuppressive medication, and that hopefully it would work. But if it didn't, that they didn't really know what other options I had. And I felt completely at fault. I felt like I had done it to myself, and in hindsight, I 100% absolutely did. It was my fault. I tried to run before I could even walk. I knew what I was doing to myself and to my body was bad and possibly dangerous, but I went ahead and did it anyway out of some weird, crazy, psychotic desire to be normal again. I did end up going through a full-blown relapse, whereas like all of my counts went almost back to zero. I was back to getting transfusions. And even then, I decided to get on a plane and go to Czech Republic and spend the summer there. I don't know if you guys remember, the year before last year, I moved to Czech Republic to be with my family for 3 months, and at the same time my grandfather had died and I had relapsed completely from aplastic anemia, and my doctors were not supportive of me going to Czech Republic at all, but I was really insistent on going because my grandfather had just died. My grandfather was somebody extremely close to me. It was pretty much like losing my dad all over again. And so I got on a plane, and I remember the morning that I had that flight to Czech Republic to be there for 3 months, I went to the cancer center and I got blood and platelets transfused, and I got on the plane, and I had a doctor in a hospital set up in Czech Republic because my whole family lives there. We know doctors, like the healthcare there is free. So, you know, it really wasn't that dangerous, but the flight was definitely dangerous. To fly with no immune system and extremely low red blood cells and pretty much no platelets, it's asking for trouble. I don't ever claim to be the smartest person in the room. I always try to be the most exciting and always live life to the fullest, but like at what cost, you know? At what cost does your life have to be so fucking exciting? This crazy life that I thought I wanted, it came at a cost, and that cost was my health and possibly my life, and it could have possibly killed me. And so, you know, looking back, I'm like, oh my God, like it actually gives me chest pains to think about that, and like, holy shit. However, I will say the 3 months in Czech Republic, I did just stay at home with my grandmother the entire time while she fed me blueberries, and I would go to the hospital every single week for blood work and transfusions, and healthcare in Czech Republic is really good. So it actually put me on the right track. It removed me from Manhattan and from all the craziness. I was very much so isolated. I know a lot of you guys are gonna say, well, you know, Stephanie, hasn't aplastic anemia ruined your life? You know, I don't feel that way, really. I feel that aplastic anemia has taken a lot away from me, but in a lot of ways, aplastic anemia has given me such a sense of gratitude and appreciation for just the simplest things. I would take so much for granted before I got sick. But let me tell you, when you spend weeks and weeks in a hospital and not able to go outside, when you do finally get to go outside and you feel just something so simple as the wind on your skin.
Oh, I'm on day pass from the hospital, which is really exciting. And we decided that we would go and check out Washington, D.C. because it's really close by.
Or like the sun on your face. You appreciate that so much more. I am so grateful to be alive today. And I am so grateful that I've been given so many opportunities, and that despite my illness, I've still been able to continue doing my YouTube, and I've still continued to at least have some sense of normalcy and excitement in my life. And that although there are so many things in my life that I cannot do and may never be able to do, there is still so much beauty and awesomeness in this world. So, you know, a lot of people might say, Stephanie, has an aplastic anemia ruined your life? No, it's actually one of the things that hasn't. I never chose to have aplastic anemia. Aplastic anemia is just something that happened to me. It was random, it was unexpected, but it didn't ruin or destroy me. It tested me. And I feel like it has made me a stronger person, and it's made me confront a lot of things about me that maybe I didn't confront before. Like the fact that I do try to run before I walk, and that I am impatient, and that maybe I do overdo things. And I'm still working it out, you know? Like, I'm not the perfect patient. I'm not like a perfect spokesperson for this disease. I need to show everybody that like you can live with this disease, and that, you know, you can overcome and be this inspirational, amazing person. But like, no, I'm still the imperfect, flawed, ex-stripper, crazy psycho Stephanie that, you know, that was there a few years ago. But like, the only difference now is that she's sick and she can't like do some of the shit she used to. You know, just because you're sick doesn't mean that you completely lose yourself and everything that was a part of who you were. Anyway, that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope that I was able to resonate with some of you. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments below. Make sure to click the thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much. Bye.